Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into it, cutting through all the noise, the quick fixes you see everywhere online. We're aiming for the real secrets, the hard-won stuff about learning languages quickly and effectively.
Exactly. If you're serious about getting past just ordering coffee and actually, speaking fluently, this is definitely for you.
Our mission today is a proper deep dive. We're looking at the strategies that actual polyglots use, people who seem to just soak up languages.
That's right. We've got insights from people like Will John, professional footballer, speaks 9 languages. Pretty amazing.
9. While playing pro football. That's intense.
It really is. And also linguists like Elista Vega, who brings these really practical, kind of non-obvious techniques to the table.
So we've gathered all this intel to figure out why most people actually fail at language learning. And spoiler alert, it's usually not about being bad at languages.
Not at all. It's often about ignoring the simple, consistent things and maybe getting seduced by those fluent in 3 weeks promises.
Yeah, those. So we're here to show you how to build a system that actually works, something that feels less like, studying.
And more like just living with the language, integrating it naturally.
The big promise here is that fluency doesn't have to mean packing your bags and moving abroad or spending years buried in textbooks.
Definitely not. It's about having the right strategy, managing your time smartly. And this is crucial, using emotion and context to make things stick, like really stick.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's unpack that. Where do we start? With the polyglot mindset?
Yeah, let's start there.
Yeah.
Strategy first. So Will John, our 9-language footballer.
Right. Spanish, French, Italian, Danish, Swedish, Croatian, Russian, German, English. Just rolls off the tongue.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
He makes this really important distinction right off the bat. Learning one language versus aiming to be a polyglot learning multiple languages.
Okay, so if someone's goal is, say, 3 or 4 languages, not just one, what's the big strategic difference? How do they need to think differently?
It really boils down to depth and maintenance. You can't just dabble if you want multiple languages under your belt long term. You absolutely have to focus on one language first, like really focus,
Right.
and stick with it long enough to hit a solid intermediate level. Think B1, maybe even B2 on that European framework, the CEFR scale.
B1, B2. Why is that level the magic number? Why not just get comfortable at A2, basic conversation, and then jump to the next one?
Because A2 is fragile. It's what we call the decay zone.
Decay zone sounds ominous.
Kind of is. If you learn a language to A2 and then step away for, say, 6 months, maybe even less, you're pretty much back at square one when you return.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the brain hasn't automated the core structures yet, but when you hit B1, and especially B2, something shifts.
Yeah.
Your brain starts to self-correct. You move from consciously thinking, okay, verb, conjugate, which ending, to just using the structure.
Yeah.
It becomes more automatic.
So it gets sticky.
Exactly. That's the word. Becomes sticky. At B2, if you take a break, sure, it'll get rusty, but when you come back, you're dusting it off, doing maintenance. You're not rebuilding the entire house from the foundation up.
Right. And for a polyglot juggling multiple languages, that solid foundation in each one is non-negotiable, I guess.
Absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just constantly battling for getting things, which is exhausting. Leads straight to burnout.
So step 1 is honesty. Be honest about your commitment level before you even download that first app.
Totally. And part of that honesty is facing the gimmicks head on. Those learn Japanese in 7 days claims.
Or fluent in French in 3 months. We've all seen them.
Right. And people defend them like you said, oh, it's technically possible.
Yeah.
Okay, technically maybe. But the sources are really clear. That kind of speed requires you to basically give up your entire life.
Like quit your job, lock yourself in a room.
Pretty much. We're talking 10, 12 hours a day. Total immersion. 0 distractions. For 99.9% of people with jobs, families, lives, it's just not realistic. It sets you up to feel like a failure.
Okay, fair point. And what about the apps? Duolingo, Babbel, all those. They're everywhere now. The sources called them a new phenomenon.
Yeah, and it's not that they're useless. They can be fun, get you started.
Mod.
But they're fundamentally games. They tap into that dopamine loop point, streaks, little animations.
The dopamine revolution applied to verbs.
Exactly. And it's easy to confuse winning the game,
Yes.
like hitting a 500-day streak, with actual progress towards fluency.
So you feel like you're achieving something.
Right. You get the little reward sounds. But did it help you understand that movie you wanted to watch? Or chat naturally with your colleague? Maybe not as much as you think.
The focus gets shifted from your real goal, like reading a book or having a conversation, to just keeping the streak alive or getting more gems or whatever.
Precisely. So, fine for dabbling, maybe learning some basic vocab. But don't mistake playing the game for the deep work needed for fluency. An hour spent chasing points might be better spent, well, doing something else.
Like focused, comprehensible input, which I know we'll get to.
Exactly. Which brings us neatly to the time commitment. If we ditch the unrealistic hacks and the game mentality, how much time do we realistically need?
Well, we looked at the legendary Hungarian polyglot Kato Lom. She was pretty no-nonsense about this.
She really was. What did she say back in her day?
Her original advice decades ago was
Yeah.
12 hours a week, focused hours.
12. And that was when finding resources meant, like hunting down actual books and maybe cassette tapes.
Right. No internet, no apps, no YouTube.
So given today's resources, everything's at our fingertips.
Mm.
The sources sort of adjust that. They suggest maybe it's adaptable,
Yeah.
but not by much.
Down to what?
Down to maybe 8 to 10 hours a week,
Yeah.
minimum.
Okay, 8 to 10 hours, that's still, well, it's over an hour a day. That's a significant chunk of time for most people.
It is. And the insight here isn't judgmental, it's just realistic. If you honestly look at your life right now, and you cannot find 8 to 10 focused hours a week consistently.
Then maybe now isn't the right time to aim for full fluency.
Exactly. It might not be the right season of life for that specific goal. You can still enjoy the language, learn bits and pieces, keep it as a hobby, but hitting that B2 sticky level, that requires dedicated, structured time. Otherwise, you're just perpetually dipping your toe in.
Okay, so let's say you faced the time commitment. You're ready. What's the absolute core principle then? The thing that unites all these successful learners?
It comes down to this, maximizing your exposure to the language. But, and this is the key part in context and at your current level, that's comprehensible input, CI.
Comprehensible input. Sounds simple enough. Input you can comprehend.
It does sound simple, but it's where a lot of people get tripped up and burn out.
How so?
They try to jump ahead too fast. Like day one of learning Spanish, they decide to watch the evening news.
Right, which is super fast, complex vocabulary, different accents.
Exactly. It's maybe 5% comprehensible, 95% noise. Your brain just shuts down. It's frustrating, not helpful.
So CI means finding stuff that's mostly understandable, stuff designed for your level.
Yes. Things like graded readers are perfect for this, or content that's just slightly above your current level, so maybe you understand 95, 98% of it. You can guess the new words for the context.
Is there a rule of thumb? Like, how much should I understand?
Linguists often use that 98% rule. If you're reading a page and you only hit 1 or 2 words you don't know, that's the sweet spot.
And if it's more than that, like 5 or 10 unknown words per page?
Then it's probably too hard. You stop smoothly reading and absorbing, and you start deciphering. You're constantly stopping, looking things up. It breaks the flow. It becomes slow, tedious work.
Okay, so the goal is repetition, getting lots of input, but it has to be input you can actually process without constant struggle.
Exactly. Repetition is vital, but it's way more powerful when it's tied to meaning, context, and ideally, emotion.
Emotion. How does emotion play into learning verb conjugations?
It plays a huge role in memory. The sources give this really intense example. It's a bit graphic, but it makes the point.
Okay, lay it on us.
Imagine someone is like physically attacking you, and while they're doing it, they're yelling the word awa over and over. And awa means stop in this imaginary language.
Okay. Unpleasant, but memorable, I guess.
You would never forget the word awa, ever, because that intense fear, the physical sensation, the context, it burns the word into your memory instantly. No flashcards needed.
Right. Obviously, we're not recommending getting beaten up to learn vocabulary.
Definitely not. But the principle is powerful. Rote memorization, just repeating lists of words, often fails because there's no emotional hook, there's no context, no stakes.
But if you can inject some kind of emotion, maybe passion for the topic you're reading about, or the fun of chatting with a friend, or even just laughing really hard at a joke in the language.
Yes, that's it. That emotional response acts like a tag, telling your brain, hey, this information is important, save it. Laughter, surprise, urgency, connection. They're all powerful memory anchors.
So find ways to make it emotionally relevant. Watch comedies, read about your hobbies, talk to real people.
Exactly. That's leveraging the way our brains are actually wired to learn.
This leads nicely into another tactic, the meal prepping method, which is about learning words in context, not in isolation.
Yes. This is such a game changer for speaking more fluently and naturally. It tackles that freeze moment we all have when trying to build a sentence from scratch.
Explain the analogy, meal prepping for language.
Think about learning single words like cooking every single meal, every single day, completely from scratch. You have to get out all the ingredients,
Yeah.
the words, figure out the recipe, the grammar rules, combine them, cook them. It takes time and mental energy every single time.
Okay, yeah. If I just learn the Spanish word llorar, to cry, and I want to say, I am crying, I have to remember estoy, then find llorar, then remember the indo ending. Lots of steps.
Exactly. That's cooking from scratch. Meal prepping is learning phrases or chunks. You do the hard work, the grammar, the combining once up front.
So instead of just llorar, I learn.
You learn the whole phrase. Estoy llorando. I'm crying. Or maybe no llores. Don't cry. Or voy a llorar. I'm going to cry. You learn these ready-made units.
Ah, I see. So when you need it in conversation, you just grab the whole pre-cooked meal from the fridge. You don't have to assemble it.
Precisely. You bypass all those slow, conscious grammar steps. You just pull out the chunk. It makes your speech much faster and smoother.
Can you give examples in other languages? Like, how does this apply to, say, German articles or French greetings?
Great question. It applies everywhere. In French, instead of learning ça and va and bien separately, you learn the chunk. Ça va bien, how's it going?
Yeah.
Or ça va, I'm fine. For German, with its tricky noun genders, instead of just learning Tisch, table, you learn the chunk, their Tisch, the table masculine. Instead of Flasch, bottle, you learn die Flasch, the bottle feminine. You learn the article with the noun.
So you bake the grammar right into the vocabulary chunk you memorize.
You got it. It dramatically reduces the mental load when you're trying to speak in real time. You're retrieving one thing, not assembling five.
That makes so much sense. Okay, one more tactical habit from this section. Reading out loud. Why is this so important? Seems simple.
It seems simple, but it's incredibly effective. The sources call it a free opportunity for practice.
Free how?
Because if you're already reading something for comprehension, a graded reader, an article, whatever, reading it out loud, adds a whole other layer of practice for free.
What does it practice? Pronunciation.
Pronunciation, yes, but also the physical act of speaking. It gives your mouth, your tongue, your vocal cords these little micro reps. You're building muscle memory for the sounds and rhythms of the language.
And it builds confidence too, right? Because nobody's listening or judging you.
Exactly. It's a zero-stakes environment to practice actually producing the language. When you read silently, your brain kind of cheats. It smooths things over. But reading aloud forces you to confront the sounds, the flow, the tricky bits.
And that practice should, theoretically, make actual conversation feel a bit easier down the line.
It absolutely does. It helps synchronize what you understand, your input processing, with what you can produce, your output. So, simple takeaway. If you're reading anyway, read it out loud.
Okay, let's move on to tackling excuses. The big one. I can't get fluent unless I move to the country.
Ah, yes, the classic. And Will John, again, just blows this out of the water. 9 languages, mostly learned without living long-term in those countries. Maybe short trips for football, but that's it.
It really highlights how much things have changed. The sources mention Cato Lam advising people to find a good dictionary.
Right. It's almost funny now. We literally carry every dictionary ever made, plus entire libraries, plus access to native speakers from everywhere, right here in our pockets.
On our phones, yeah. So location really isn't the barrier it maybe once was, especially if you live somewhere even moderately diverse.
Or even if you don't. The internet connects you. The resources are abundant. The real challenge now isn't access. It's using the resources effectively. It's about technique.
Which brings us to a powerful technique, shadowing. You called it the accent accelerator.
It really is. It sounds simple, just repeat what you hear. But done right, it's incredibly intense and effective for tuning your accent and understanding native speed.
Okay, break it down. How do you actually do shadowing properly?
It's about training your mouth and your ear at the same time to handle the speed and rhythm of natural speech, which is way faster than textbook audio. I recommend a sort of 3-step approach to start.
Okay.
Step 1. Pick a short audio clip, maybe 30 seconds to a minute, of a native speaker talking naturally. Just listen once or twice. Focus only on understanding the gist.
Step 2.
Listen again. This time, follow along silently in your head. Try to mentally mimic the rhythm, the ups and downs, the pauses. Get a feel for the flow.
And step 3 is the actual shadowing.
Yes. Listen one more time, and this time repeat out loud immediately after the speaker, like you're their shadow, just half a second behind them.
And the focus isn't on perfect grammar or catching every word.
No, not at first. The initial focus is purely on mimicking the sound, the rhythm, the intonation, the melody of the language. If their voice goes up at the end of a question, your voice goes up too. copy everything. Pay attention to how they physically make the sounds, if you can see them.
How their mouth moves, where their tongue is.
Exactly. That level of mimicry. Even just 5 minutes of really focused, intense shadowing like this every day can make a huge difference to your accent and comprehension over time.
And technology makes this easier now too, right? With certain tools.
Absolutely. Think about platforms like LingoPie or similar services where you can watch actual TV shows or movies.
Yeah.
They often have features perfect for this, like interactive transcripts, double subtitles, native in your language, the ability to slow down the audio slightly, or even auto-pause after each line.
So you can watch something authentic, get the context, see the words, click on ones you don't know, and practice shadowing line by line.
Exactly. You're getting context, emotion, input, and output practice all bundled together. It's incredible leverage compared to the old ways.
Okay, what about the newest tool on the block? AI. The sources mentioned AI tutors, but also said they kind of suck right now.
Yeah, the current state is, let's say, developing. AI isn't quite the perfect, nuanced teacher yet, but it's already incredibly useful if you know how to use it.
How so? What's its strength?
Customization. Real power lies in creating personalized learning material on demand.
So it's not about having the AI teach you, but getting it to generate stuff for you.
Precisely. The learner needs to be in the driver's seat. You can feed it, say, a list of 20 vocabulary words you're working on, words relevant to your life and interests.
Okay.
And then you tell the AI, write me a short, simple story about your hobby, say, basketball, using these 20 words. Make it at the A2 level. And then generate an audio recording of you reading the story.
Whoa, so you get custom-made comprehensible input with audio about something you actually care about.
Exactly. Tailor-made CI. Infinitely more engaging and memorable than generic textbook dialogues or random flashcards about pencils and tables.
But this puts the responsibility squarely on the learner, doesn't it? You have to actively program the AI.
100%. And this applies whether your tutor is AI or a real human on italki or whatever.
You can't just show up and expect them to read your mind.
Never. You have to tell them exactly what you need from that session. If you want to improve listening, you say, okay, for this session, please talk about 80% of the time. Ask me questions, but mainly, I just need to listen to you speak naturally. Correct my major errors, but don't interrupt my flow.
And if you want speaking practice,
Then you say, okay, today, I need to talk. Please ask me lots of open-ended questions that need more than a yes-no answer. And please do correct my mistakes, especially with mention a specific grammar point you're working on, like past tense.
so dictate your goals clearly. Don't be passive.
If you're passive, you're probably wasting your time and money. The learner has to direct the learning.
Okay, this feels like a good transition to the absolute biggest hurdle for most people. Consistency.
Yeah.
Just sticking with it.
The discipline dilemma. It's huge. And the sources really highlight how much harder this is today because our attention is constantly under attack.
Notifications, social media, endless scrolling, the digital chatter.
Exactly. Well, John, coming from pro sports where focus is everything, really stress this. Every time you glance at your phone, every notification distracts you. You pay a price, a cognitive switching cost. It pulls you out of that deep focus state you need for learning complex things like language patterns.
So the strategy for consistency isn't just about willpower. It's about actively managing your environment and energy, like Cal Newport's deep work idea.
Precisely. It's about eliminating noise. Language learning, especially the part where you're actively acquiring new stuff, is hard mental work. It requires concentration.
And most people try to squeeze it in when? End of the day.
Usually. Like 9 p.m., after work, dinner, chores. When your brain is basically fried. And then they wonder why it feels like such a struggle and they're not retaining anything.
Because your brain's ability to learn is just lower when you're tired. You're fighting an uphill battle.
Totally. So the SMART routine flips it. You schedule the hardest part, that focused, deep work session of comprehensible input, maybe 30 to 60 minutes for when your energy is highest.
For most people, that's the morning, right? Before the day drains you.
Often, yeah. First thing in the morning.
Yeah.
And this needs to be sacred time. Fun off, or better yet, in another room. No interruptions. You're training your focus muscle while you're learning the language.
And what about later in the day? Can you still do stuff then?
Sure, that's where passive learning comes in. Listening to a podcast while commuting, having music on while cooking, maybe watching a show you don't need 100% focus for. That's great for maintenance, for keeping the language around you. But the heavy lifting, the new acquisition, that needs peak energy.
So it's not just a hobby you fit in. It kind of has to become part of your core daily structure, especially that morning focus block.
It really does. If you want serious progress, it needs that priority. There was an example of a student who just committed to listening to French news radio every single morning while getting ready for 2 whole semesters.
Didn't understand much at first, I assume.
Probably very little. But they just kept doing it. Same time, same routine. And by the end, they understood like 90% of it effortlessly
Yeah.
because they built that consistent exposure habit during the focused time.
Okay, but life happens. Some days you wake up full of energy, other days, not so much. How do you stay consistent then? You can't always do an intense hour.
This is where the consistency menu idea comes in. It's brilliant, from Elise de Vega.
Consistency menu, like ordering takeout.
Kind of. You pre-plan different levels of activity based on your energy. You create a menu with options for high energy days, medium energy days, and crucially, low energy days.
So you remove the daily decision of if you'll study and just decide what level of study fits your energy right now.
Exactly. Takes the willpower out of it.
Yeah.
So a high energy task might be have a 15-minute conversation with my language partner or write a short essay journal entry, something demanding.
Okay, medium energy.
Medium energy could be learn 5 new chunks using the meal prep method, or do 10 minutes of focused shadowing, or read 2 pages of my graded reader out loud. Still focused, but less taxing.
And the most important one, low energy.
Low energy is key. The task here has to be minimal, almost effortless, but not zero. Like, listen to 2 songs in the language while I wash dishes, or review 3 flashcards on my phone while the kettle boils, or watch 1 funny 2-minute YouTube clip.
So even on your worst day, you still touch the language, keep the chain going.
Precisely. It prevents that all-or-nothing thinking that derails so many people. You didn't do your hour, so you feel guilty and quit. No, do your 2 minutes. Do something. It maintains contact.
It's like the advice for exercise, right? Can't make it to the gym, just do 10 push-ups at home. Don't break the habit completely.
Exactly the same principle. Consistency beats intensity over the long run. Showing up, even for 60 seconds, matters.
And the way to make showing up almost automatic is ritual linking.
Yes. This is about piggybacking the language practice onto habits you already have. Things you do every day without thinking.
Like brushing your teeth, making coffee, commuting.
Perfect examples. So you decide. Every time I make my morning coffee, I will review 5 vocab words while it brews. Or, my commute is my podcast time. I always listen to my target language podcast then. Or, right after I brush my teeth at night, I will read 1 paragraph out loud.
You link the new desired habit language practice to an existing automatic one.
And that removes so much friction. You don't have to find extra time or rely on motivation. It just becomes part of the routine. The language gets woven into the fabric of your day. All right, let's get into some of the classic debates and mental blocks. First up, grammar. The dreaded grammar police, often living inside our own heads.
Yeah. Should we be memorizing grammar tables from day one? The sources seemed pretty clear on this for beginners.
The consensus, especially from the polyglots, is definitely just ease up on formal grammar study at the beginning, way up.
Why? Isn't grammar the skeleton of the language?
It is, eventually. But early on, focusing heavily on rules is like studying the intricate physics of ball trajectory before you've even learned how to kick a football.
The analogy they used, you wouldn't spend 20 minutes explaining the offside rule to someone who just wants to learn how to pass the ball.
Exactly. You need to get functional first. Get a feel for the language, communicate basic ideas. Studying grammar rules in isolation before you have context is just studying abstract rules. It's not internalizing the language.
It can actually paralyze you, right? You're so busy trying to remember the rule that you can't speak.
Totally. The guiding principle, especially in conversation, should always be seek to understand and seek to be understood. Focus on communication first.
But grammar isn't useless forever, is it? When does it become important?
It definitely has its place. The linguist Stephen Krashen's work points to its value, particularly when you have time to think like when you're writing. Writing gives you the space to consciously check rules and refine your output.
Okay, so maybe not for speaking initially, but for writing later.
Yes. And if you do want to tackle grammar systematically, the advice is to do it just in time. Wait until you notice you're consistently making a specific mistake. Maybe you always mess up the dative case in German or the subjunctive in Spanish.
Then you focus on just that one thing.
Exactly. Dedicate a short, focused period, maybe a week, to understanding and practicing that specific rule, then move on. Don't get stuck in endless grammar study. Let the input guide your intuition most of the time.
Makes sense. If I point at a bottle and manage to convey, I want that bottle, Who cares if I messed up the gender of the article at that moment?
Communication achieved.
That's the spirit, function over perfection, especially early on.
Okay, next debate. Vocabulary. Flashcards, brute force memorization versus just absorbing words through input.
Yeah, there's the brute force method drilling lists using SRS apps like Anki religiously. It's common in some very disciplined learning cultures. Well, it works. Sort of.
It works?
Sheer repetition can force words into memory. But the sources argue strongly it's not the most efficient or effective way for long-term natural use.
Why? Because it lacks context. And context is king for memory and usage. The far better way, the flow method, relies on getting most of your vocabulary naturally through extensive reading.
Reading. More than watching movies or listening, I thought immersion through TV would be better for vocab.
It seems counterintuitive, maybe. But think about the density of language. A novel, or even a detailed news article, simply contains far more unique words and more varied sentence structures than a typical conversation or a 30-minute sitcom episode.
Ah, okay. Spoken dialogue is often repetitive, uses simpler words, lots of filler.
Exactly. High-frequency words, common phrases. Reading exposes you to a much wider range of vocabulary, rarer adjectives, specific nouns, complex sentence structures. The sheer volume of unique word exposure is way higher in reading.
So if you want to rapidly expand your vocabulary, reading widely is the fastest way.
Overwhelmingly, yes. That's where the big gains come from.
And it matters what vocabulary you focus on, right? Not just random words.
Absolutely critical. Focus on words that are high frequency for you.
Right.
For your life, your interests, your goals.
So the footballer needs different words than the doctor.
Totally. And someone traveling to Korea needs practical phrases like Shiksa hashioseoyo. Have you eaten? A common greeting. More urgently than they need the word for chalkboard or stapler, which some generic apps might teach you early on. Getting those early wins with relevant, useful language is a huge motivator.
Okay, this is vital but uncomfortable. Making mistakes. Looking stupid.
The necessary evil. Seriously, though, mistakes are not just okay. They are essential for deep learning.
How? They feel bad.
They often do. But that feeling, the slight embarrassment, the correction, creates a powerful emotional anchor. Remember the Omesh example. A mistake you make, especially a public one, gets flagged by your brain as important. Well, John talked about this. The stakes are higher for him, making mistakes in front of thousands. But the principle is the same. You make a mistake, you get corrected or realize it yourself, you feel that little sting.
You never make that mistake again.
Pretty much. The correction gets locked in because of the emotion attached. People forget your mistake in 5 seconds, but you remember the feeling and the learning sticks. So you have to be willing to put yourself out there and risk looking silly. Hiding until you're perfect means you miss out on this crucial feedback loop.
And tied into that fear of mistakes is often the accent obsession. People worry they won't be understood or they'll sound bad.
Yeah, and accent does matter for smooth communication. If your accent makes you hard to understand, your competence in grammar or vocab doesn't help much. And getting the accent reasonably good often leads to more positive interactions, more encouragement, that warmth factor.
But can you actually change your accent? Isn't it fixed after a certain age?
That's largely a myth. Accent is trainable, it requires focused effort, but it's absolutely changeable.
How? What's the technique?
It's about paying super close attention to the physical aspects of pronunciation. Not just hearing the sound, but seeing, if possible, and mimicking how native speakers actually use their mouths.
Like tongue placement, lip shape.
Exactly. Are they opening their mouth wide like many Americans, or keeping it tighter like many French or Spanish speakers? Where does the tongue hit the teeth for a the sound versus a to sound? You need to become an observer of mouths.
And shadowing helps here too, presumably.
Massively. Aggressive shadowing forces you to mimic those physical movements. And another great technique, singing.
Singing, like karaoke.
Karaoke, singing in the shower, whatever. Singing forces you to adopt the rhythm, the intonation, the melody of the language in a really exaggerated way. If you could mimic a French pop song's flow, you're well on your way to capturing the spoken rhythm.
So get over the embarrassment, mimic like crazy, maybe even sing a bit.
You might feel silly, but that dedicated, slightly obsessive focus is what gets results with accent. #outro.
Wow, okay, that was definitely a deep dive. So much practical stuff there. Let's try and recap the big shifts people need to make.
Okay, first, ditch the quick fixes and unrealistic timelines. Accept the need for maybe 8-10 focused hours a week.
Right, and prioritize comprehensible input stuff you mostly understand, ideally with some emotional connection. Use that 98% rule as a guide.
Learn in chunks, not isolated words. Meal prep your phrases. Son of a pa dertish, estoy hablando. Make speaking way smoother.
Use deep work principles. Do your hardest learning when your energy is highest, probably morning. Eliminate distractions. Phone away.
Build a consistency menu for high, medium, and low energy days. Do something every day. Link it to existing rituals.
And crucially, embrace mistakes. They're learning opportunities. Don't worry about grammar perfection early on. Seek to understand and be understood.
Use shadowing and maybe even singing to nail the accent. Mimicry is key.
And that brings us back to the core motto, doesn't it? Language learning isn't really about collecting words or acing tests.
Not fundamentally. It's a tool, a vehicle for connection. Always come back to. Seek to understand and seek to be understood.
Focusing on that shifts the reward, doesn't it? Away from external stuff like app points or social media likes.
And towards internal success. That feeling of actually connecting with another person, understanding something new, being understood yourself. That's the real win.
So if consistency is just about doing something small every day, and habit comes from linking it to your life, we want to leave you, our listener, with a final thought to mull over.
Yeah, a little challenge. Thinking about your own daily routine, your own energy patterns. What's one tiny, almost effortless ritual you could adopt starting tomorrow morning?
Something really small that links your target language to something you already do automatically.
What's that first tiny thread you can weave into your inner world consistently?
Find that one thing. Start there. The deep dive is over.
Now the real journey begins.